Well, I'm joining you today from Washington, D.C., and you guys have a lot better football team than we do, so I might defect while I'm here. It could happen. But seriously, thanks for joining me today. It's a pleasure to be here to talk about an emerging puzzle piece in a broader augmented go-to-market landscape. Before we get started, is anyone identify it as in the small or medium-sized business space? Yeah. Okay. Awesome. And anybody in the more enterprise or large enterprise space? Okay. A few. Great. I'm gonna talk to actionable strategies versus team roles, or who should do what, as to really bridge the gap here. But if you'd like to chat later, I'd really be happy to go into anything else, what I'm seeing and some of my research as well. So I've had the unique experience, as Daniel said, to work in the commercial space and the federal government in largely publicly traded enterprises and VC or employee-owned small startups. So I hope today's discussion will be really useful for you all, especially from the perspective I'm looking at it from. So, here we go. Okay. We're going to talk a little bit about the GEO or AEO fundamentals. We're going to look at a quick case study and talk about some measurement and wrap it up with the broader go-to-market landscape and what's working in augmented go-to-market. So here we are. So traditional search is evolving. Obviously, we all now see AI summaries, and there's no longer the option to view 100 results at a time, only 10. And with the rise in the use of AI engines to query the simple to the complex and have deeper conversations that lead to learning, an opportunity has emerged to influence how those AI engines are responding. So traditional SEO rewards, of course, precision and repetition. Generative or answer engines prioritize content that's well organized, easy to parse, and dense with meaning, so not just keywords. There's still a place for SEO. Don't abandon your SEO strategies. However, you may want to consider auditing your paid keywords, things like that, to divert funds to AEO or GEO projects. Bottom line is everything works in answer engine optimization or generative engine optimization. Everything that works in SEO works in GEO or AEO, but there's a few things we'll talk about today that you might want to use to differentiate. And I should call out too that the search industry hasn't really aligned on one term for this. They're calling it GEO, AEO, AI search. There's a whole bunch of other things popping up out there too. So, but it's all ultimately, how do you influence what the AI engine is producing as far as answers go, and how do you get cited in them, and ideally link citations. Great. So thanks to the increase in context window size that we've seen mature over the last 2-3 years or so, we're asking significantly more complex things of AI. And as a result, we're digesting answers with a significantly higher citation rate. So this shift calls for that content strategy around really getting your brand mentioned and cited. This display of the nonlinear relationship between prompt complexity and resulting citations means there's an opportunity for even the smallest brands to get mentioned in AI citations. And that's really exciting because there are things you can do pretty quickly and pretty easily without spending a ton of money and still get cited. So the types of answers that typically deliver those link citations are those that leverage retrieval augmented generation, or RAG, as we all know. And they clearly instruct the AI to provide sources, which really brings an informed and warm lead to your doorstep, which is what we all want if you're selling things and trying to make money. So there's a couple, two very important sides of the strategy. Now, what I don't mention here between content structure and content deployment is really those technical foundations, such as the website speed, mobile-first indexing, schema markup, clear HTML heading structures, and clean architecture and internal linking. Those are all things that ideally your website provider or a third party is doing for you out of the box. We'll talk a little bit about, I use Squarespace. We'll talk a little about what they're doing out of the box later. But really, you can do a lot with content generation and even asking AI to help you with semantic density and citation optimization, or your content platform. So as far as what you can do for content deployment, there's of course a million organic ways to deploy your content, and then there's many paid as well. But what I really want to call out here is Reddit. I have their little logo here, but depending on the AI engine, Reddit accounts for 40% of AI citations. That is eye-opening. And they've surpassed Wikipedia, YouTube, and others. So if you don't have a Reddit strategy in your company, run, don't walk to go create one. Get the whole company engaged. They're already on Reddit anyway. You might as well make them useful, talking about your brand, right? And responding and generating great content that will help ultimately others find their way to you. So it's really about that authentic and trustworthy user-generated content there. So as essential tools and technologies, recent funding rounds. So earlier this year, a number of companies were propelled by VC funding in the GEO or AEO space, which is bringing a lot of these monitoring analytics platforms to market in a really meaningful way, and they're continuing to evolve. They're layering on SEO and AEO metrics together to give you a total picture of what you look like out there as a company and a brand. So like I said before, these leads are coming to your doorstep from linked AI citations, ideally, and they tend to be much more qualified leads. You might see less of them, but they're much more qualified overall due to that deep research and complex prompting that they're doing. So you want your brand to be cited there authoritatively. And I know that integrating new tooling is not always easy. Rajiv mentioned that too. But it's really about seamlessly integrating into your existing MarTech or go-to-market stack. There's a million things out there that you could be doing, but you need to do the thing that works for your company and ideally get the process down before you implement the tool. What do you want to get out of it? So content optimization, there's a number. I mean, you're probably using a go-to-market platform today that has some of that already in it. And if you want to use AI just natively, AI engines natively to help you with that content optimization, that's an option too. And then augmented go-to-market platforms, if you're using like the HubSpots of the world, things like that, you want to look for monitoring analytics platforms that help you integrate and see that bigger picture as you pull through top of funnel into qualified accounts and leads. So, of course, the new goal is not just to rank, but to be the primary source cited in that overview. I grabbed this off the internet this morning. Ahrefs just released a new dashboarding picture, and they're really layering on SEO and AI search. So mentions, citations, impressions, and AI share of voice in one picture. This is Tesla, if you can't see the name of the company, but it's indicative right around February, March, April of this year is when Google really rolled out those AI summaries. So to be able to see that jump there is pretty impressive. All right, quick case study. I have a disclaimer. I used my own website for this case study because I thought it would be fun when I found out I was speaking here to see what I could affect in a really short amount of time by implementing some of these principles. So I have a side consulting business called Bowen Consulting. I started it when I left Accenture. The intent was to help my friends who are entrepreneurs with everything from org design, go-to-market strategy, federal contracting, whatever they needed help with. And it's been a fun side gig, I got to admit. But I don't sell anything on my website. I talk about what services I offer, but I don't offer a demo of a product or anything like that. So it was a pretty basic webpage, but it did need a little help. So I'm glad I spent the time for this case study. All right, so what did I do? I went through, let me come down here. I went through a content audit and analysis. I had a really stale blog, like hadn't touched it in a long time. And I really wanted to center it around what I've been doing lately in consulting, which is more in the revenue operations space. I went through, I use Squarespace out of the box, as I mentioned. So I went through and they actually offer a lot of the AI search optimization already natively. And I pumped out, like I said, additional content, and I added an FAQ, which is something they recommend doing as well. That very direct, ask a question and answer it, which is what AI engines love as far as creating citations. I should probably do some more content on, comparing two things or asking more questions within blogs and answering them directly. That's probably some good planning for the next couple topics as far as structure goes. And then performance tracking, they have some great analytics out of the box, but I didn't use any of the platforms that we talked about or I mentioned earlier in the slides, like Profound or Goody AI. There's a million others that are out there too that are really cool. All right, so what happened? So my observations were that the implementation of the GEO and AEO principles that we just talked about resulted in significant improvements across total traffic metrics. Now, direct traffic is kind of hard to parse occasionally, so the fact that I did see a large number of increase in unique visitors and organic referral traffic is now at 2.5%. It's pretty cool. So I thought it was overall a really worthwhile experiment, and I'm glad I did it. It really got me thinking more about, what I want to be talking about out there, and how I want AI to see me as a trustworthy source. So let's talk a little bit about how we should measure a time, money, or opportunity cost investment in implementing some of these principles. But first, there are a lot of new words when it comes to AEO or GEO, and one in particular, a couple of those terms are brand mention and content citation. They kind of sound like the same thing. So what's the difference? Well, the difference is that with some of these really cool modern analytics platforms, you can track both mentions and citations, and there is a difference between the two. So if you have high mentions and low citations, the AI knows who you are, but doesn't trust your content enough to use it as a source. So you really want to focus on your brand's personality, how your brand answers or comments on other things on social media, really, more interesting language and defining some of the terms that you hold dear, like, hey, we're a friendly shop. What does friendly mean? And if you have low mentions and high citations, your content's technically well optimized, but your brand lacks a conversational recognition. So you want to focus on backlinks from authoritative sources like academic research, things like that, citing sourced news, things like that. And ideally, you have high mentions and high citations, and you have optimal AEO or GEO health. So now that we've level set it on those two terms and kind of what's the difference, if I were about to ask my CEO for a couple $100,000 to spend, time and money into platforms or new things to measure, AEO or GEO and brand citations and all that good stuff, I would say, here are the OKRs that I want to track, and here's what I think we can get out of them. So that AI-driven traffic growth is something you definitely want to look for, and baselining it once you hook up that platform initially, if you're not seeing that already in the tools that you're using. AI citations, the citation rate, and especially the link citation rate. That's the service on a platter of your brand for that person, that user, to click through directly to your website. That's really important. And then mentions across a target query portfolio. A target query portfolio is 50 to 100 questions that you want to show up as the answer, in the answer too. So that takes maybe an hour or two to go through with a workshop with your team and really figure out what are those questions that you want to show, your brand should show up in the answer to. And Ethan Smith, the CEO of Graphite, has some really great advice. He recommends creating a control group of questions and not doing anything with those questions, not spending any money or time or any investment to try to influence the answers. And then you really know if what you're doing is working. And authority score has a little asterisk by it because it's a proprietary metric that Profound uses. So it's an interesting way to look at trustworthiness and citability, but it's proprietary to them. So this might be what I would say, hey, this is what we're going to measure, and we go on this journey and we spend this money and time to do this. And we ultimately want to see more referrals to our website or link citations appearing in AI search. Because again, that top of funnel becomes more, those leads are definitely warmer when they come to our doorstep. So there's a couple common implementation mistakes to avoid. The over-optimization trap. This isn't just with the AI slop side of things, but it's also over-optimizing for one particular model. We all know each model can be a little finicky or has different training sources, of course. And then unrealistic timeline. This can take 3 to 6 months to really implement or see some really great outcomes. So those OKRs that we mentioned on the last slide, those take time. So make sure you time box things appropriately. And inadequate measurement, we all know this. Any time, money, opportunity, cost, investment needs a way to measure it. Okay, so if any of this was like, oh my God, we're not doing this, what should we do next? I need to call a team meeting. If you do that, I would recommend these kind of bigger things, bigger chunks in this process. And that website and content technical foundations audit, really great and important. I'm sure you're already thinking about that in the back of your mind. Developing a multi-model content relationship map. Do this on like a virtual whiteboard, but you're clustering around topics. What are all the places we could be posting content? What should we do around this content? Really great exercise you can also do with a team. And holy Reddit. I still can't believe some of those stats depending on the engine, but it is the place to be. That user-generated content is trustworthy and authoritative, and those are the two things you want. Defining that target query portfolio, another great team exercise. Everybody comes to the table with 10 or 20 questions and you work through them, prioritize them, and make sure that they align to either new product releases or specific pieces of your brand that maybe have gaps. And then I'll skip down to the bottom, but the idea here is to experiment and tune and stay flexible in your monitoring analytics tool choices, all of your tool choices, and really constantly circle back to that content calendar. Like, where are the gaps? Where are we not showing up in certain answers? What do we need to do here or there? Awesome. So this is just a puzzle piece. Obviously, this is, a small puzzle piece in the augmented go-to-market strategy. Every tool or go-to-market tech stack process is embedding AI foundationally in their own way to make it better and easier to use. But the bigger picture is that they all don't work together, which thank goodness we're in the decade of agentic AI. Hopefully all of these agents will help us, all these tools and platforms work better together. But as far as the three kind of pillars here, demand source analysis, there's that top of funnel patterns and prediction of optimal touch points. There's a whole bunch of great tools out there. And really understanding the process. And I'm a big believer in once a week or twice a week, getting together with your go-to-market team and looking at your demand sources and saying, where are we spending money that we're not getting the return from those demand sources? Like we're spending a lot of money in the channel this quarter, and we're not seeing that as a demand source increase in the last 1 to 2 to 3 months. All right, so what's the problem here? What do we need to do? Do we cut that? Do we kill? Do we pivot? What do we do? So that demand source analysis meeting of the minds is really important. Dynamic channel orchestration. If you're in the unique position to be building a go-to-market tech stack from the ground up, I would highly recommend focusing on multi-channel and multi-touch attribution capabilities, so you can really see where that investment is paying off, because there is no marketing one deal and there is no sales one deal. It's one funnel and we all work together. And that automated A/B testing is really important. That's where the synergy between your marketing and sales leaders really comes together. There's a lot of really cool stuff happening in the augmented sales enablement space right now too. Just being able to train with an AI coach on your pitch or objection handle. There are a lot of really great tools out there. One that I'm really tracking and bullish on is called Luster. And it's their little logo down there in the corner. They're doing some really cool stuff in the augmented sales enablement space. I would definitely recommend checking them out. So, AI search fits into this demand source analysis side of the slide here, but there is so much more going on, and it's really meaningful to make a strong investment in your top of funnel so that you can get those better leads and work them and have higher conversion rates. I'll leave you with this. The tools don't matter. I talked a lot about tools today. At the end of the day, what matters is the process. And if you don't know the process or the experience you want your prospect to have in your go-to-market process, then you need to do that first. And I would highly recommend doing a service blueprint or getting together and figuring out that process before you implement those tools. That's the most important part. So thanks for having me. I'll be around later. I'd love to chat and meet everyone. But this was a really fun talk to put together. So I'm really appreciative that Daniel asked me to do it today.